All right, hello everybody. Welcome back to the Breathe Easy podcast. I just wanted to run this episode as kind of a introduction to me, introduction to my day-to-day. I know I've said a few things about being a CF warrior and everything like that, so I want to show you what that entails. So basically, cystic fibrosis is a genetic disease where you have to inherit a mutated gene from both of your parents. So you have to get one from your mom, and you also have to get one from your dad. So this makes you incredibly lucky at the end of the day. Obviously, that's a little dark humor for you right there. So CF is an incredibly variable disease. I think a lot of people, when you say CF, they think, okay, this is a lung disease, right? And while a lot of that is true, it's incredibly variable, like a lot of things, actually. If you really think about it, things are not always cut and dry. So as somebody who lives with CF, I don't have the classic case of CF that most people would expect, which is the, lung-only issues. It's really more than that. CF is not just a lung disease, it's also kind of a full-body disease. So with me and my CF, it's mostly GI and endocrine-related. My GI is shot, pretty much, at all times. From pancreatitis, flare-ups, to gallbladder issues, fatty liver disease. All these things play a big role in CF. And it's all because of that thick, sticky mucus that CF produces. It does not only just produce it in the lungs, it also produces it pretty much everywhere else in the body, from the GI tract, from the endocrine system, blocking up bile ducts, and also the reproductive organs. So, interestingly enough, people with CF, a good majority of them, especially male, are not able to reproduce and have their own kids. In CF with boys, that thick, sticky mucus that gets into the lungs and gets into the GI tract also prevents the vas deferens from properly forming, which ends up making it like you're born with a built-in vasectomy, I guess. So that's another telltale sign of CF. It's actually very unique to CF. It's a good way of finding out if you have it because it's primarily a CF thing. Also can prevent development of the kidneys as well. So a lot of people with CF are actually missing a kidney because it didn't fully develop in the womb. Your mucus in general actually plays a big part in development of some vital organs while you're in the womb. And if it's too thick, you don't end up developing those organs properly. So when I was diagnosed with CF, it was very strange because, my whole life I had sinus issues. I had reoccurring bouts of tonsillitis and strep throat. Sinus infections were something that I got quite a bit as a child too, but it wasn't ever really thought of more than just surface level issues. So when I got into my 20s, when I turned 22, I got a pretty bad tummy ache, to say the least, and I didn't think much of it. I was kind of like, oh, well, maybe I'm just hungry or something, maybe that's kind of every excuse to not go to the doctor. When you're somebody that doesn't really frequent the doctor, you kind of try to come up with things to, it's no big deal. It's just, it's a tummy ache. Maybe I ate something bad. Maybe I'm hungry, whatever, I ended up trying to quell this stomach pain with food. I went to Carl's Jr. and I said, this burger is going to help me feel better. It seems ridiculous now to think like that, but so I got a burger. I ate it. And I felt like I was literally going to explode. Do you remember the game Dig Dug back in the day? And the guy takes the little pump and he blows the guys up so viciously. He would blow those little things. Who even knows what those things were? I don't know what they were. They were pretty crazy looking. But he would blow them up viciously. Didn't care what their story was. So that's what it felt like. Somebody had stuck a bike pump down my throat and blew my stomach up like I was going to pop. I'd never felt anything like that before. That still wasn't a good enough sign for me for some reason. I got some Pepto. I was like, it's just something. I got some Pepto, drank it. It didn't do anything. Probably made it worse even. So I went home, tried to rest it off. I tried everything but the thing I should have done, which was just go to the hospital. But I went and laid down, rested. Didn't go away. Got worse. Got excruciating. I couldn't even talk. Then I decided it's time to go to the hospital. So I drove myself to the hospital. After rigorous testing, I found out I had pancreatitis. And little did I know that this was going to lead me down a rabbit hole, essentially. So fast forward, I go to a urologist. They feel around down there, to say it in the most polite terms that I can say. And they notice that your boy is missing the vas deferens. And I say, no way. This is impossible. My whole life, I've been going to the doctor and they've been feeling down there, for physicals as a man and as a boy. Every time you get a physical, they're supposed to feel down there, right? And this doctor tells me something that, to me, it doesn't even make sense. At the time, it didn't make any sense. He says, yeah, you're missing your vas deferens. I said, okay, is there any type of imaging that we can do to prove that, or are we just going to go with that? He said, yeah, we're just going to go with that because this is the best way to test for it by feeling it. So I found out then that my vas deferens were missing. He said, I also want to order imaging for your kidneys to see if you're missing a kidney. He said, because this is typical in people that have a disease called cystic fibrosis. Of course, at that time, I wasn't the most read up on the disease. I'd heard things here and there about it. I remember watching stuff in science class about it, but I never delve into it or felt the need to dive into it. So I got my kidneys scanned. Thankfully, I have both of my kidneys. So that was good, but I was still missing the vas deferens, which was a crushing blow. I think at some point in your life, you really think that your purpose down here is to be able to have children one day, and have that ripped out of you is pretty crushing. Now, while I'm not saying I can't have kids at all, right? There's also really great programs that you can get into that help with IVF and any type of in vitro. It's still a little bit painful to know that that's not something you can just do naturally. After that, kidney scans, the CBAVD diagnosis, congenial bilateral absence of the vas deferens is what it's called. I then pursued genetic testing. So I got my genetic testing done, and they found out that I indeed had 2 markers for CF. I have the classic F508del and the rare R1066H mutation, which explained a lot. It explained why things weren't classic CF. They were much later diagnosed and much different than most cases of CF. So after that, obviously this was a huge thing to cope with for me, because I went from somebody who thought he was fairly healthy, always felt kind of crappy, always felt kind of tired, always felt kind of miserable. But, people they tell you that's just how it is to be an adult. After you hit, a certain age, that's how you feel. You feel like crap. But I always felt like it was different. I struggled a lot. To keep up with people in physical activity, in the gym. I felt like I couldn't last as long. I just couldn't. I would work out for a long time and I still didn't feel like I had the same endurance that other people had. I was just so tired. So after all of that genetic testing, I was assigned to the CF clinic that I currently have in Los Angeles. And they start out by giving you what they call a sweat test. And it's probably the most interesting Willy Wonka style test. It's like Willy Wonka invented this thing. Basically what it does, or what they do, I should say, is they rub this little chemical on your skin, usually on your forearm, that causes your body to produce sweat. Now, once your body starts producing the sweat, they have this little strap they put on your arm, and it's a little spiral tube, and it sucks all the sweat up into this little tube. The tube starts turning this nice blue. It's beautiful blue their sweat turns into this beautiful blue color. And they take that test back, and it can determine whether or not that sodium content in your sweat is high or low. And basically that test determines whether or not you have CF or not. It's a very interesting method. It seems a little outdated, but it's what they use and it works. So I guess if it isn't broken, don't fix it. So here I was, just totally in denial, honestly. I think that's the first thing I could say, is that I was in denial. It was the most random thing I could have ever imagined happening to me, and it had happened. Then starting down that rabbit hole, there was more bouts of pancreatitis. It was a reoccurring battle. I kept getting it. It didn't just go away. Something had triggered this within me, and it made it happen all the time. My GI just was not cooperating with me. I didn't know that I was so full of crap. Excuse my language. They did scans and stuff on my GI and found out that I had high stool retention, and then the work began to try to regulate me. Pancreatitis at that level, you can't really do much about it, just hope and pray. It's not typical pancreatitis that's triggered by alcohol or triggered by foods. It's triggered by CF. It's caused by the thick mucus clogging up the bile ducts in the pancreas. Your pancreas helps your stomach and your GI digest food by releasing enzymes that break down fats, sugars, carbs, proteins. Now, the mucus plugs can clog the pancreas up, and instead of those enzymes being released properly like they're supposed to be, they end up being stuck in the pancreas, and they are hungry enzymes. So instead of going out into your stomach to eat the food or help you digest the food, they essentially start eating your pancreas, which, as you can imagine, causes inflammation and some pretty horrible pain. So there's really nothing you can do about that. as somebody with CF. You can try to eat foods that don't really proc your enzymes in your pancreas, certain foods that you can eat that are low FODMAP, that cause less irritation, cause it to produce less enzymes. It goes without saying that this was a hard thing for me to accept was going to be a new thing in my life. So your mind is then flooded with anxiety, depression. You end up with little eating disorders because you feel scared to eat. It's terrifying. It really messes with you. And it's a lot. It's a lot to hit you at once. All of a sudden in a month, you can't have kids. You're going to have these reoccurring bouts of pancreatitis. You might end up getting the lung stuff later on down the line, which is what I was told about my condition and my mutations in general, that it has been shown that later down the line, people with my mutations end up getting the lung problems on top of everything else. It's kind of crappy because you're like, now you're kind of anticipating that instead of just having it. If I had it already, then I would be like, okay, I have this. But now I have an air of fear around me all the time. That's every time I get a cough or every time I get a little sniffle, I'm like, no, what is this? So, fast forward to now, I'm taking an incredible amount of medication just to function every day. So much so that the last doctor I talked to said, man, we don't have anything else to give you. We don't even have another pill to give you to help you. It's needless to say, I'm kind of running out of avenues here. I will say there was a miracle drug that has been released onto the CF community, and that miracle drug is called Trikafta. Now, I am so blessed that I am able to get a hold of Trikafta with my medical plan, but there are so many others out there that cannot get a hold of this drug and are suffering, and it's really heartbreaking as somebody in the community. But the Trikafta has been shown to help people with their lung issues quite a bit. It's helping people rediscover their lives. It's awesome. And they're always working on making a better version of it. So even in the future, we're going to see new modulators coming out that are even easier and more streamlined. The good thing about Trikafta is it scratches both of my itches, which is me saying that it hits both of my mutations. Both of my mutations, F508del and R1066H, just so happen to be reactive to Trikafta. So the Trikafta is actually helping me with my pancreas. I haven't been having pancreatitis for the last few months, so let's cross our fingers that doesn't happen anymore. I really hope we're getting through that portion. Downside is it can indirectly contribute to even worse GI issues. So my GI is shot, but my pancreas is doing better, which is a blessing because the more issues you have with that organ, the more issues you're going to have in life down the road. You can get your pancreas taken out. Basically, you have instant diabetes and you only have a few years left to live after you get it taken out. You can get pieces of it taken out and live longer. If you get the whole thing taken out, that's pretty much a wrap. After a few years, you're just not going to be able to live anymore. So I'm very grateful the Trikafta is helping because every bout of pancreatitis is going to cause scarring. It's going to cause issues with the pancreas that could lead to pancreatic cancers, could lead to having to get the pancreas removed or partially removed. It's a blessing that this actually, hopefully, like I said, I don't want to speak too soon because you never know. It seems to be scratching an itch. My lipase has been down pretty good. The lipase is the enzymes that we were talking about before that help digest the food. Your pancreas produces a few different enzymes and lipase is one of them. It's one of the ones that they'll test you for pancreatitis with. If they find lipase in your bloodstream, like at a certain level that's too high, they can tell you have pancreatitis right there and then. So I'm on Trikafta. I'm on omeprazole, which is a acid reducer. It helps you with acid reflux. I take 2 of those a day. I take 3 Zenpeps every day. They're enzymes that can help with digestion with the pancreas. They like to give you these enzymes when you start taking Trikafta like this because it can help aid with the digestion. I'm also on Motegrity, which is a GI motility drug. Kind of helps things get moving a little bit. I'm on Linzess, which is another GI motility drug, primarily prescribed to people with IBS to help them go to the restroom. I'm on Famotidine, which is another acid reducer, acid blocker. I take Ursodiol for my gallbladder because my gallbladder is all fudged up. I have gall sludge and there's gallstones and stuff like that. So the fun stuff with CF, I take Miralax 3 times a day. I do a Go Lightly at least once or twice a week. And I work a 9-to-5 job. So you can see how this is it's like, you see the guy on the unicycle with the plates on sticks. That's what it feels like your life is with CF. You're kind of like You're on that unicycle with all of those plates on sticks and trying to balance everything. It gets very hard. Couple that with the emotional distress from the disease. That's why I started this podcast. I want people out there to know that there's others like us that know how it feels. People that know how it feels to take all of these drugs and still feel like crap every day. Still have to get up and go do a job, actually go work. Have to deal with the HR departments giving you a hard time if you're taking too much time off. Even if you have the FMLA paperwork, they still want to make it a little harder. You know, that's the fun part about this stuff. You have to get good at advocating for yourself. If you don't, you're going to get drowned. It's a sad world we live in that people can't just be understanding. It's just how it is. But we're all in this together. I know it. You know it. There's other people out there that know this stuff. And if we put our voices out there, we will be heard. We can't skimp on our voices. We have to put our voices out there and we have to show people what we are feeling. We can't suffer in silence. Nobody cares unless you make them care. It's very embarrassing to work at a place and feel like people are looking at you all the time, looking at what you're doing. If you're going to the bathroom, you feel like people are judging you. I know all of that. I know how it feels. I know how it feels to have people watch you use your albuterol inhaler at work and wonder what's wrong with you. Or you take a long break because you're sick and you're having flare-ups and you take extra time off and people will ask you, where you been? What are you doing? Is everything okay? And you feel like, no, everything's not okay. But I don't want to tell you that because if I do, I feel like it's not really heard. People are compassionate, but they need to know more about the things that we're suffering through. It's for all of us. This is my purpose. I found my purpose and I know it's going to make things better. And I can suffer through all the pills and I can suffer through all the pain, but at the end of the day, what really matters is doing something proactive. And if I can do that, then I feel like my purpose is fulfilled. So we have some guests that are going to be coming on. I'm going to be doing those recordings this weekend, the 15th of February. I will be having a recording tomorrow, February the 16th, with an awesome guest. She's really cool. This episode will be releasing next Wednesday. That'll give me a little bit of time to edit the episode with our guest to make sure it's nice and polished and that she's comfortable with the episode. And then I will be able to put that out the following Wednesday. So big things are coming. People are coming on the show and they're happy to explain their stories and get them out there. And we can all learn from each other. That's the great part. Through all of this suffering, great things can come out. Learning, expression, and unity. With all of the stuff going on right now in the world, health is becoming probably the biggest topic of discussion right now in the United States. People have had enough. People want their voices to be heard. They want to find the right doctor. They want to pay the right price. And it's becoming more and more evident every day. So I thank all of you for listening to the Breathe Easy podcast and supporting the cause. My DMs are open to anybody who wants to get on the show. Just message me. I'm on pretty much everything. Reddit, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, all of it. Any of those platforms. Message me. Let's get you on the show and let's get your voice heard. Also share this to whoever you possibly can. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being a part of something real. I'll see you on the next one, guys.